Let me talk to you about music in general. You're renowned for country music. What kind of music do you like? What do you listen to when you get home?
Well, I like all kinds of music, Dick, really do. I like country music, I like pop music, and I like rhythm and blues, and I like rock and roll.
Where are you from?
Bakersfield, California.
Well, you got a sampling of everything then.
Yeah, I really do.
I got to tell you an ironic story. Merle has written the title tune of a motion picture that both he and I were in. I produced the picture, so we can't mention the name of the picture, we can't mention the name of the song, and he can't perform it because there would be a conflict of interest. It's probably right this minute #1 in the country field, and we'll come back another day and we'll do it when the heat's off.
When the heat's off.
Yeah. What are you going to do about acting? You did such a fabulous job. I killed this poor man in the picture, accidentally. I didn't mean to, but did you like it? And I don't mean the killing part.
I loved it. Like you say, it was my first time to ever really try it, and I'd like to do it again. Really would.
Would you like to be a full-time actor in addition to singing?
I would like to try.
I'll tell you, when people see you in this, plays the part of a highway patrolman. He's a hero-type character, but he gets in a little bit of trouble with the rest of us. You got to give it another whirl. What do you do when you get time off?
I go fishing. I like to fish.
Deep-sea fishing or country style?
Country style, catfishing, you know, trout fishing, that type of thing.
How many songs have you written in your career?
Dick, I believe I have a catalog of something like 100 songs.
Did you write this next one?
No, I didn't. This was written by a girl with the name of Liz Anderson, who is a fine country songwriter.
I got myself talked into a corner because I was sure you'd written that one. Merle, would you...
One of the only songs that I didn't write that I've recorded.
Would you settle yourself over there before the floor manager has a fit here, and we'll give it a little bit of a try. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Mr. Merle Haggard.
I thought, what a pretty little girl. You look the same as you did then.
Oh,
I understand it was an accident that you had when you were real young that was partly responsible for you starting in the music business. Now, how did that happen?
I was mowing the yard, and...
you were doing it yourself?
Yes. And a rock hit the mower, and it hit my leg, and did a lot of damage to it. So all I could do was stay in the bed for quite a while. And because of that, I bought me a guitar for $7 and tried to learn how to play.
What kind was it?
It was a Gibson, but it was ruined when I got it.
Oh, and is that when you decided, when did you want to be in show business?
When I was 5, I remember saying I'm going to be on the Grand Ole Opry.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you did it before the accident then?
Really. I never really thought that it would happen. I wanted to. And then when I was in high school, I said, you know, I'm going to sing on the Grand Ole Opry. I put that in my prophecy, you know, in the yearbook. But I said it with a laugh, so people think I was fooling, because in case I never got it done.
Now, Bill Anderson had something to do with your success in the business. What was that?
When I met Bill, we were talking about country music, and I was just so thrilled that a real live Grand Ole Opry star, you know, would even pay attention and talk to me like I was a real person, because I'd never met one. And Bill was so nice to us, and he was saying, well, you like the country music so much and all this so much, why don't you come to Nashville? And I said, oh, yeah, sure, just like that, I'll come to Nashville. And he said, no kidding, I'm going to do Ernest Tubb's record shop in March of, that was in March of '63, or '64. And he said, why don't you come down and be a guest? And
that's what made you come to Nashville.
Right.
Right.
And that thrilled me to death, because that was my dream, just to come down.
Had you been to Nashville before?
Never had. And I remember it cost me $80 for my ticket to fly to Nashville. And that night I got to go to the Grand Ole Opry, and I sat backstage and watched Bill Phillips' little boy while he was out singing on stage, and I thought I was big stuff.
I just didn't feel, and I don't feel, that music made by machines, I still don't like it. I never liked it then, I don't like it now, and I ain't gonna like it tomorrow, you know. I think my favorite type of music that Haggard does, that Wynn Stewart did, that Hank Thompson, Dwight Yoakam, we all take a band and we go to the studio and we make records, you know. And I think it shows. I think you can tell it. Maybe it's not hardly as smooth or sweet or as slick, but it sure enough is human.
Right, it's got the feeling.
Yeah.
It has got the feeling. But how ironic that now you're doing the same sort of great honky-tonk music you did in the 50s and 60s. Now it's being hailed as new country.
Isn't that amazing? I read some of these reviews, and I actually think, and a lot of pop critics, in the States you have your pop music critic, and then you have just music critics and so forth. And, some of them call it, they got lots of names for it, and some of them call me a rebel rouser, and some of them call me a rockin' honky-tonker, and all those things, but, it is honky-tonk music. I used to be offended when people would call my music honky-tonk music, or they'd call me the grand old honky-tonker or something like that, And I went and looked honky-tonk music, looked up honky-tonk in the encyclopedia, and I had started back in the 20s, back with the old piano, the lone piano out in the tavern, and it said it had a honk, and somebody put a tonk to it, and then all the country western people started playing in the honky-tonks in the taverns, and then they started knowing the taverns as honky-tonks, So, yeah, that's what I do. That's what I love.
This Pinnock business, Francis Pinnock.
Mary Frances Pinnock. Well, as you said, that's the name I was born with. Mary Frances. My daddy named me that.
Pinnock?
Pinnock, that was my little maiden name.
You were the oldest of 7 children.
Mm-hmm. Still am, too, Arch.
Yeah.
Although sometimes I feel
When did you discover you wanted to be a country singer?
Well, I always loved it. I think the first time I really, really started loving country music was when I heard the Carter family singing Keep on the Sunny Side.
Keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side of life.
Yes, sir, that very song. I think I was in the 5th grade, and I just came in from milking the cows. And heard that on the radio, because my mother was the country music fan. And
Did you learn to milk when you were young?
I was in the 5th grade. Let's see, I was 10 years old.
Yeah, to get a job like that, you're going to have a lot of pull, don't you?
Yeah. Yeah, Arch.
How did Betty Jack Davis get you and Betty Jack, how'd you get your first contract?
Well, we started singing on a radio station and, and a TV station there close to our home in Kentucky. It was really over the river to Cincinnati, Ohio. But we started there, and then we saved up all of our nickels, dimes, and quarters and took our first plane trip to New York City.
Waylon, what has been the best and the worst of the 80s for Waylon Jennings?
The hard part might be finding the best. No, I think the 80s, we go back to the song. I don't think there was a song in very many people's heart in the 80s. The 80s were a little bit scattered for me, and I had a lot of health problems. I did a lot of adjusting my life and everything. It was good for me, There's a lot of it was good for me, but I'm kind of glad they're over.
Hey, Waylon, do you have a secret recipe for your and Jessie's longevity in your marriage?
Yeah, my secret recipe is Jessie. Because, she kept it together when it was, it was falling bad,
You mean
Jessie's
you were
an amazing
really
lady.
You were really bad?
Waylon, did you
I
think...
was pretty wild, I never was bad, Jessie. As most people know, I had a drug problem, but I never was mean, but I just never was there, And therein may be the secret to how we kept our marriage together, because if I'd ever come home, she might have run me off.
What advice, Waylon, would you give to some of the young and upcoming singers regarding that?
Regarding marriage?
No, regarding, the drug problem and
you don't need that,
Mm-hmm.
The thing is you need just to depend on your own strength. A lot of times, you can blame a lot of people for things.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't blame anybody for my drug problem except myself, because I was just too dumb to know any difference.
Yeah, I was born in Mississippi. Our land joined the Alabama line. Alabama was actually more home to me than Mississippi.
Yeah, you country gal.
Sure
Picked that cotton, didn't you?
Oh, Lord, yes.
She burned up a gin. Tell us about. See, she's got a business agent or a booking agent that I fish with all the time named Shorty Lavender, and he told me to be sure to ask her to tell the story. Now you can break Shorty's leg when the show's over. But tell me about it.
Well, my granddaddy told me if I picked 50 pounds by noon, I could quit for the day. And I hated picking cotton worse than anything in the world.
I know, I've been there.
So I got out early when it was wet. You know, it would weigh more when it was wet. So I got as much as I could possibly get, and Daddy had always told me never to put a rock in my sack because it would catch the gin on fire. But I wanted to quit it now. So I filled my sack full of rocks, and I went to the wagon and emptied it myself so nobody would know that I put any rocks in it. But I left a few in there and I didn't know it. So Daddy took the cotton to the gin, and the gin was inside of our house, and I sat on the front porch and I saw the smoke.
You set your house on fire.
Set the gin on fire. When it went up that aluminum or metal pipe, whatever it is, when they suck the cotton up through there, it caused sparks and it caught the gin on fire. Well, it takes like 1,300 or 1,400 pounds to make a bale of cotton, and I think it burned up about 400 pounds. But I saw Daddy get on the tractor and start toward the house, so I started running.
At the time, I become thrilled, you know, the idea of having a hit record, and I would pray to the good Lord all the time. Let me just get that one record and see how it feels.
Well, he obviously answered the prayer, because all these years later, you've had more records, as I understand. I didn't know this. More chart records, 164, I think at last count, 165.
Top 10s, yeah.
Top 10 than any artist, recording artist in history. Now, I mean, I read.
But they put out a lot of records on me.
I mean, my goodness. I mean, you think about Elvis, you think about the Beatles, you think about all these different forms of music, Sinatra, whatever, and you have 165 records. That's unbelievable.
Well, it sounds unbelievable to me.
I mean, if you
really.
had to stand up and try to sing them, I mean, how many of them do you still remember?
There wouldn't be but a few I could remember without getting the words in front of me. But I pretty much remember the melodies to all the old songs that I've done.
The toothpaste is out of the tube.
It's happening right this minute. We're touring together. Stranger things have happened.
I remember when we started out, we were on the same little old rinky-dink bus. We had 6 musicians on the bus. Our bass player, Pops.
It wasn't even a bus, it was a Winnebago.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, Pops played the bass and drove the bus, and then...
Oh, I'm talking about the very first.
And Mike...
Back in 1983.
Mike was the road manager, collected the money, such as it was, and what did Mike do? He just
whatever you told him.
He tried to run everything. He was the only person we had, but there were 16 pairs of sneakers, smelly sneakers.
There was no plan. I never said no, because there's a higher power and I'm not it. And there are 3 reasons I'm doing it, and it just made sense for a lot of reasons. So don't have time to go into that, but I'm just telling you, when you feel that it's God, it kind of thing, I just knew it was time to answer the call, and here we are.
And I didn't want to stay home and watch quiz shows anymore. I've now switched to true crime, but it was getting a little wonky.
I have no idea. I don't know.
I do. I know what I'm going to do. First of all, I love my outfit. I made it myself, and not this one.
You're so gullible. Laughter. Honestly, I'm the happiest I've ever been. It's taken me almost 8 years to get this chill. It takes a long time.
Well, hi there, and welcome to the Ernest Tubb Record Shop. You know, I've talked with many country music fans right here over this counter throughout the past 20 years that we have had the Ernest Tubb Music Shop. And many of them ask me usually about the same questions, going back to, well, how did I get started in the country music business and how old I was and so forth. And So I'd like to take this opportunity to try to answer some of the questions asked most often, I should say. First, how old was I? Boy, that's a long time ago. I was about 19 years old in San Antonio. That's back in 1933, and I got my first job singing on the radio over station KONO, 1933 in San Antonio, Texas. And another question that we're asked very often is who was my inspiration? Most artists do have an inspiration in the business, and mine happened to be the late and great Jimmie Rodgers, America's blue yodeler, and referred to as the singing brakeman. We call him the father of country music. He was my inspiration. And then the next question they asked me, how did you get on records? That's a big one too. Everybody goes about it a different way. I happen to be lucky enough to meet Mrs. Jimmie Rodgers, the widow of the singing brakeman who lived in San Antonio at the same time that I did. And she was good enough and thought enough of me and my possibilities to try to help me. So she got me an audition with the RCA Victor Recording Company, and I made some records. That was in 1936 when Mrs. Rodgers got me the audition with Victor. The records didn't sell, but at least I had my chance. But Mrs. Rodgers still didn't give up. She still had faith in me, and she kept working on the different record companies. And then in 1940, Decca Records agreed to audition me, and they did, and recorded me. Back in April the 4th, 1940 in Houston, Texas, I made my first Decca record. And it wasn't Walk in the Flow Over You that most people think it is. It was two songs that I had written, I'll Get Along Somehow on one side and My Blue-Eyed Elaine on the other side. That was actually my first Decca record. And that was in 1940, April the 4th, that I made that record. Walk in the Flow Over You didn't come along until about 1941. I wrote this one, which happened to turn out to be my biggest selling all-time record and paved the way for many other things. For instance, I got to go to Hollywood to do 2 Western pictures with Charles Starrett. And then eventually, they heard about me here in Nashville, Tennessee at the Grand Ole Opry, and it led the way to the Opry, which of course was my greatest ambition, which is the greatest ambition I think of most everybody in the country music field. Actually, I got one of the questions asked, who helped me get to the Grand Ole Opry? Well, Mr. Joe Frank, the late J.L. Frank, and people referred to him now as Uncle Joe Frank. He was the one that was responsible for bringing me here to the Grand Ole Opry. That was in December 1942 as a guest to be on Roy Acuff's portion of the Grand Ole Opry, which was the network there, the NBC network. And but I was only brought in as a guest, and actually I learned later that Mr. Frank, Uncle Joe, talked him into letting me stay for 4 Saturday nights as a tryout. And actually, I didn't know whether I was going to get to be on the Grand Ole Opry or not, but I was here for 4 weeks, and then, fortunately, I've been here ever since, and that was actually 43 is when I say I started on the Grand Ole Opry. That's 25 years ago, a quarter of a century. And, you know, believe it or not, they never actually hired me yet. I don't know how I'm still here, but I am.
You've always been there writing songs for strong women. Have you?
I have. And today they're calling me now to write for them. So I've been writing my head off.
Yeah.
And so a little girl by the name of Leon Malmack,
Oh, you bet.
she is really good.
I want you to write some songs for her.
Yeah, I've got some wrote for her.
What kinds of?
Same stuff that I recorded. And let me tell you, this is what's wrong with the music business today.
What?
They are singing do la la la.
Yeah.
You know, who's going to remember that stuff?
Right.
Not me or you.
No.
You're going to remember Don't Come Home Drinking and Loving on You. Well, this is what I said. You know, if they want me to write, they're going to have to take it like I write.
Yeah.
Because that's the way I write.
How many other songs did you write for Mooney?
Oh, my.
I mean,
there was always a line in every song I threw in for him. There was always a line.
Like, behave yourself, boy.
Behave yourself, yeah. There was always a line, and he'd never know which one, so he couldn't holler about it. Bless his heart.
Would he smile about it, or would he worry about it?
Well, he didn't say anything about a song till we were going down the road in the truck one day. Was coming home from Nashville, and I'd wrote Wings Up on Your Horns. And it was just, when I wrote the song, it was just opposite, wings and horns, you know, being opposite. I didn't think about people thinking it was dirty.
Right.
So everywhere you'd punch on the radio, that song was playing. And he said, "That's the dirtiest song." Yeah, I'll not put in there what he said. "Song I've ever heard in my life." I said, "Well, honey, it's been out 3 months. Why didn't you tell me when I was recording it?" And I thought you had more sense than to sing it.
Yeah.